Well, hello everybody. I'm in a place that I never in a million years thought I would be at. I am in East Prussia. Well, it's actually Poland, but in the days of Nazi Germany, it was East Prussia. And for those people who don't know, Germany at the end of World War One controlled most of Poland and definitely everything on I guess it's the Black Sea. No, it's not the Black Sea. It's the sea on top of Germany and Poland. And at the end of the war, World War One, they decided to give Poland a pathway to the sea. That was one of the biggest things that Hitler wanted back, was that corridor that Poland got at the end of World War One. Okay, so after Hitler started World War II in 1939, he was immediately planning the invasion of Russia. And he decided to build a complex to host the government, the entire government, right here. And it actually was not Poland. It was East Prussia. It was controlled by Germany. That's why they were able to build it, because they controlled it. And this was Hitler's, he had the entire government moved here after the invasion of Russia. So what this is right here is, this was Germany, and this part right here, okay, was East Prussia. And Poland had this corridor right here. Now, after Hitler invaded Poland, he took this section and Russia took this section right here. But this was already Germany's. Before, this was not Poland. This was a part of Germany. And this is the corridor that I'm talking about right here. This is what was given to Poland so that Poland can have access to the sea. But prior to the end of World War One, Germany controlled all of this, and this was taken away. So Hitler wanted to get that back for Germany. Now, do you see all these red dots on here? These are all hideouts, you know, bunkers for Hitler, wherever the war was going on. They built them all over, and they actually built one right here in Ukraine, and that one was called Werewolf. And for those people who don't know, Adolf Hitler's nickname was Wolf, a noble wolf. So Hitler actually went to this bunker here about 3 or 4 times, but he spent from the invasion of Russia, he spent 800 days right here where we're at. Most people, when they think of Hitler, they think of the Berghof, which was where he had a it was in the Bavarian mountains, which was really close to Munich, which is where, you know, he had an office, and World War II was planned at the Berghof. The invasion of Russia was planned at the Berghof. Now, when they were planning the invasion of, see, this says Berghof, that's where the Berghof is. When they were planning the invasion of Russia, they were building the Wolf Lair. And here's the Führer bunker, which people know about because Hitler committed suicide in the Führer bunker. But all these red dots represent bunkers where Adolf Hitler could go and be close to the front. But the one that he was at the most is where I'm at right now. And then you can see over here, and you know, they have it in Polish, German, and English. And what you can see right here is all the buildings that they built. Now, they had 3 layers of defense for this, all guarded by the SS, about 6,000 soldiers, tanks. They had 2 airports, and they had buildings for all of the main leaders, except for Goering had one here, but no, Himmler. Hitler didn't want Himmler to have one here, and Ribbentrop was the like the foreign minister. So they had bunkers not far from here where Himmler could see Hitler, but he had to stay at a different bunker. And you can see right here, number one was accommodations for Hitler's personal bodyguard, the Reich security staff, the conference barracks, which is number 3. And let's see where number 3 is. That's right here. And that's where the famous assassination attempt was made on Hitler's life. And let's see. And then Goering's bunker is number 16, but he never stayed here because he didn't like it. And then Hitler's bunker is A, Fuhrer's air raid shelter. So you have Albert Speer. He had his own place here. Pretty much like Hitler's bunker is number 13. So where's 13? That's all the way in the back. All right, so we're going to go and walk around this facility and check it out. But you ready? Mm-hmm. And look at the bunker. Now, for those people who don't know, what happened to the bunker, actually, was in 1944. And I'm not perfect with all these dates, okay? But in 1944, the Russians got really close, and they evacuated Hitler. Now, there was other things here as well, including a train. They built a train all the way to this place, and one of the famous people that came in on the train was Benito Mussolini. When Hitler, he had Benito Mussolini rescued because he was taken prisoner when Italy decided to join the Allies. Hitler needed him for the Italian soldiers that were willing to continue to fight for the cause. So he went and rescued Mussolini, and then he brought him here by train. And there's a famous photo of Mussolini being or Hitler meeting Mussolini at the train. Mussolini also came here after the assassination attempt of Hitler, and Hitler actually showed Mussolini the barracks that was blown up. Now, there was multiple attempts on Hitler's life. And when I say multiple, I mean multiple. But 2 were really the only ones that were ever almost successful. One was when they got a bomb on his Condor plane, and it didn't ignite because they put the bomb in the cargo, and the Condor could fly at a high altitude. The bomb went off, but the mechanism worked, but it didn't go off. Now, and the other attempt on his life was right here. You can see right here. This is building number 2. This is offices and rooms of the Reich Security Services. And then, now you're going to notice, look at this. Look at this. Oh man, there's a lot of snow. It's very dangerous to walk up here. But what happened is the Nazis blew this place up as they were fleeing. Hitler was almost captured here. He literally made it out. The Russians did not know this was here. No one knew this was here. And the reason why they put it here was for camouflage. This is an actual forest here in Poland. Well, which is technically East Prussia at the time. Oh! And let's see. What is that building over there? Look at this. It's just all blown up. Now, you know, there's a lot of bunkers that the Germans built that are still up today. But the reason why this one was is no longer is because it was blown up. It was blown up as they were fleeing, as I said. Look at this. This is crazy. Look at all these bunkers. They're just blown to bits. And let me tell you something. It is cold out here. And I am the only one out here. I'll tell you that. Now, they have a lot of signs and you can read them and you can see that. And you know, by the way, there's been a lot of videos uploaded online of the Wolf Lair. My video is going to be a little bit different. I really do love history. I love reading about history, studying history, watching documentaries about history. So I know quite a bit. I mean, I'm not an expert by any means. Now, I will tell you that at one point, over 2,000 people worked here. And that doesn't even include the thousands of soldiers that protected Hitler. Hitler was terrified of being killed. There was about 50 to 60 assassination attempts on his life. And here we go. This is the shelter of the press chief. And you can kind of see a picture of what it looked like. Oh, and do you know what this is right here? Do you know what that is right there? That is the building right there that the assassination attempt of Hitler was made. And there is a famous photo of Hitler greeting a bunch of his, people, including Stauffenberg, who had the bomb on his persons. Now, one of the reasons why Hitler wasn't killed in that was because I believe the meeting was supposed to be held in there, a bunker. But it was so hot that they decided to move it over here to a regular building. And this is it right here. This is it right here. This is where the failed assassination attempt of Adolf Hitler happened. And you can see the foundation, and that is the door that led to it. Now, what happened was this was not a air raid shelter, okay? This was a regular building, so it wasn't as hot as all these concrete buildings. So if they would have had the bomb in the normal place where, you know, they were going to have the conference, which was over there, you know, with all the concrete, it would have literally, the shock of the bomb would have killed everybody. But, you know, because it was in a wooden structure, it was able to blow things apart. Now, the bomb was set on a heavy leg table. And the leg table shielded Hitler. Now, he was hurt, and I think about 3 people were killed in the blast. But it is what it is. Hitler was not killed. And he literally went on a rampage of putting people on trial, and including one of his most famous generals, Rommel. But he was not put on trial. He was given the opportunity to kill himself, to protect his family, and that's what he did. And right here is where Adolf Hitler was almost killed by a bomb blast. That is the door. And Hitler was nearly killed in 1944, right here on this spot. All right, let's keep moving. It is very cold out here. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And by the way, this facility is literally over, you know, a mile around. I mean, it's insane. Now imagine 2,000 people that ran the government, the Nazi government, here. Jeeps rolling around, people walking around. And look at this photo right here. And you can see Goering right there. Look at that. Now, in 1944, Adolf Hitler ordered more reinforcements to be added to his bunker. Now, one of the things that's really interesting, do you see this moss that's growing on the building? That was put there purposely by the Nazis to disguise the buildings. They also planted trees. Now, you see those trees growing on the top of that bunker roof? They planted trees, they planted grass, so that when you flew over the top, you could not see this facility. Oh my gosh, my fingers are literally freezing off. And look at that. There was a lot of famous people that came here to the Wolf Lair. Leaders of multiple countries like Bulgaria, I think like Iran or Iraq. Pretty much like every country came to see Hitler here. Not, you know, like the United States, England, France, all them. But all the countries that were involved in World War II one way or another. Look at this. Look at that. Check that out. Now, I can tell you, if the Nazis hadn't blown this up in 1944, it would still be here in perfect condition. Because these bunkers, look at that. See, there's the roof has collapsed in. Do you see that growing on the side of the building? That is 100% put there on purpose by the Nazis. You see this? That was definitely to hide it. This is like totally crazy that I'm here at the Wolf Lair. I am a big fan of World War II. I love reading about it. And look at this. You can walk right through and lights come on. Look at this. Holy cow, look. So this room right here was a communication room, apparently. Look at that. This facility right here they started building it in late 1940, and it was completed just in time for the start of World War II. I should say the invasion of Russia. That's what I meant. This is totally crazy. Think about it for a second here. The entire Nazi government essentially was moved here to the Wolf's Lair. And we're right here. And now this place has a train station, and Hitler had his own train that was literally damn near impenetrable. It was a fortress type train. He also had his Condor plane here at the Wolf Lair. And look at this building. This is the garage. And look at that, there's some tank tracks right there. Now here's like a little exhibit dedicated to the Warsaw Uprising. They put that here because Hitler learned about the Warsaw Uprising while he was here. It happened August the 1st, 1944. And it lasted 63 days. And while he was here, he ordered the complete destruction of Warsaw. Unbelievable. 200,000 people died. 18,000 Germans lost their life. Soldiers, German soldiers, lost their life during the Warsaw Uprising. But you can't even understand just like how massive this place is. And there was buildings everywhere, and a lot of them, like I said, got blown up. Now, Hitler, like I said, when Munich is the home of Nazi Germany, I mean, that's the beginning of National Socialism. It was started in Munich. And Hitler had the Berghof, which is not far from Munich, okay? And when people see a lot of videos of Hitler, they see them at the Berghof. Because those were videos, I should say movies, made by his eventual wife, Ava Braun. And that was all pre-World War II, or after they'd already defeated France. He was in the Berghof. He was in the Berghof literally until the invasion of the Soviet Union started. Once the invasion of the Soviet Union started, look at that. Once the invasion of the Soviet Union started, he came here to the Wolf's Lair. And again, you can see all that moss. You see that? That was purposely put there. Now, this place in the summer is infested with mosquitoes. It's extremely humid. And it's very difficult to be here. Look at this. This building up here is mess hall for the people who work here. Look at that. Now, by the way, they had thousands, tens of thousands of mines all around this property. Thousands. They had thousands of soldiers. And look at this. And here you go. Now this is a picture of Hitler just prior to the bomb exploding. Looks like you can go in this building. Nope. Now, just so you understand. Oh, yeah. I don't know how you get in there. You can definitely go in this building. It's a replica. Let's see. Looks like it's locked up and you can't get in. But anyway, this building serves as a replica of the room where Hitler was killed. And it looks like you can't get in there. I don't know why. But you can... You know what? The place is so dead. Like, I am virtually the only person here. And so they might have locked up. Now, do you see this fake tree over here? They had tons of these all over the place. In addition to having all these fake trees, they had walkways, like where I'm walking right now, would be under camo net. You see? They're fake trees. So people could stand on under them in the event that they saw a plane flying over. This building here was the head of the Wehrmacht. Well, I can't pronounce it right. My mouth is frozen. That's that building right there. Check it out. Now, just so you understand, the entire German government was being run right here, where you're at. And this building right here would have been a barrack where people would sleep. And you can see that it is not a bomb bunker. Meaning, like, if a bomb hit it, it would go through. Some buildings were added after the fact that Hitler moved in. Because he moved more and more and more people here. And this right here, building number 15, right here, is Hermann Goering's bunker to protect him from aerial raids. Now, you know, the funny thing about this place is that no one ever found out about it. Like, they never knew, including the Russians, because when they were penetrating this area on their way to Berlin, they went right past it. And Hitler could have been captured, but he wasn't. Look at this. This is Hermann Goering's bunker. Look at this. Now, obviously, they're letting you walk here, so they obviously determined that this is never going to collapse. But you see those pipes there? That's one of the ways they got fresh air. And these bunkers are serious business, let me tell you. Okay? They're made so that you couldn't put like poison gas in them. They're made so a bomb couldn't penetrate them. I mean, they're very well thought out. Now, Hermann Goering, who was captured at the end of the war, he never stayed the night here. Look at this. He was here a lot for meetings. Look at this. Now, do you know what this is? This is how you would get to the roof. Because all of these buildings had anti-aircraft guns on the top of them. So when see, there's Goering and Hitler. That's a stoop looking Hitler, so that must be late in the war. Look at this. You can walk around in here. And as I said, Hermann Goering, he was a drug addict. Many people think he was homosexual. There's Goering there. You can see how he's wearing a white suit. He had pale blue suits. People feel like he wore makeup. He's always well dressed. And he was absolutely a, pretty much, he was the second in command for Nazi Germany. He was second in command, and he was a drug addict, and what he really was an art thief. And he had a home that he liked to spend most of his time at called Cairn Hall, which he blew up. And he took all of the art that he stole, he put it in a train, and it was later found. But he basically was like a big art thief, a drug addict, and he basically just liked to appease Hitler, tell him exactly what he wants to hear. For example, at Stalingrad, he told him we definitely could airdrop all the supplies in that are needed until we can punch a hole and get those people out. But he knew he couldn't. Everybody else knew he couldn't. But Hitler believed it. He told those troops to stay put. They eventually were all captured or killed. I cannot even believe the entire German government was here. People think of Hitler being at the Fuhrer bunker in Berlin. Hitler had an apartment in Berlin. He was not in Berlin very much during World War II until the end of the war. He spent most of his time in Munich, where he had an office, which is where Chamberlain literally met him in person to sign an agreement to say that if Hitler was to get the Sudetenland, which is part of Czechoslovakia, he would make no more territorial demands. In other words, take Poland. And that was in Munich. And Hitler spent most of his time in Munich because that's where a lot of the big events that led to Hitler becoming the Chancellor of Germany happened. For example, the Beer Hall Push, if you don't know what that is, that basically is when Hitler That basically was when Hitler tried to overthrow the German government. That's what that is. And you can see this is a replica of what it would have looked like if you would have been here. They would have built these camo nets all over the place. In fact, at the Berghof, which he almost never went back there because he was almost always here from the invasion of Russia on, until he ultimately went to back to Berlin and went to the Fuhrer bunker, which is what most people. And there we go. There, that again is Hermann Goering's bunker. But you can get a better idea of what the place would have looked like. Oh, what I was saying about the Berghof is it was also covered in camo net. And if you go to the Berghof, there's remnants of the camo net all over the ground. If you're a souvenir hunter, you just go around, pick through the floor, and you'll find pieces of camo net that would have been on the side of the Berghof. And when they blew it up in like 1950 something, that camo net was blown all over the place like confetti. Look how big and massive this place is. And here's another building here. And you can see Hitler would have been in this building. This is the bunker of the Chief of Armed Forces of Keitel. Now, Keitel was a German general that was very, very, very loyal to Hitler. Now, he was hanged for war crimes at the end of the war after the Nuremberg trials. And this is Keitel's bunker. Look at this. You're talking about like the most dynamite that has ever been used in the history of mankind was used to blow this place up. There are German bunkers, submarine pins, and all kinds of stuff still standing to this day because the Germans built it so good. Like in Berlin, there's these flat towers. I mean, it's like almost impossible to tear it down, so they just left it up. So you can only imagine the amount of concrete that was used, or TNT that was used to blow this place up. It's unbelievable. Look at this. Now, Hitler's daily routine here, if you know anything about the Berghof, every day he would go for a walk. And he would end up in this famous shot where he's looking over the Bavarian mountains. And this says it's in a adjunct building. And you can see people in front of it right there. When Hitler was at the Berghof, every day he'd go for a walk, and then he had a tea house built at the Berghof. And almost when you would get to the end of this walk that he would go on every day, he would turn around, come back, and go in the tea house. So when he had this built here, he also had a tea house built. And so Hitler's daily routine here would have been to wake up. He didn't ever wake up very early. He would wake up and he would go for a walk with his dog. His dog's name was Blondie. That was his dog's name, Blondie. He would go for a walk. Look at this. Look at the devastation. And this says, you can't see because of all the snow. This shows what Hitler's bunker would have looked like. So Adolf Hitler would have had his doctor living here. I mean, you name it, he had him living here. 2,000 people. Now his mistress, Ava Brown, she, I don't believe, ever came here. Hitler had her hidden. And here's another building. Look at it over there. This says Casino and Tea House. This is a spot right here, and you can see Hitler would come here. He would literally hang out, drink tea, and he would have all of his higher ups, and he would recite every single day, like his famous speeches, and he would just hang out in the tea room. Now, this also had a cinema. It also has a fire pond somewhere, and I don't know where. They built like a pool, but in case any fire broke out here, because let's say they got bombed, they would need water to put out the fires. I mean, this is pretty wild. Now, I want to tell you how you get here. It wasn't easy. I can tell you that. You have to drive through little town after little town after little town to get here. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's outrageous of what it takes to get here. Hitler wanted this to be as far away from civilization as possible. Look at all the devastation. Look at how big that bunker is. Now look, you can actually go in there and crawl in there. Clearly they don't want you to. Now the very biggest the biggest bunker here is Adolf Hitler's. Look at this place. Just think about Adolf Hitler every single day walking out that door. I believe that right there is Adolf Hitler's bunker. Let's take a look at this sign. Yep, this is Adolf Hitler's bunker. And you can see what his office looked like. And there it is. Adolf Hitler's bunker. It says during the reconstruction in 1942, reinforced concrete shelter was untouched. The only novelty associated with Hitler's bunker was the construction of a staff briefing house, a small building covered with ceramic roof tiles near it. In 1944, the existing shelter was totally demolished along with the briefing house. The new shelter was put in use in 1944. Hitler lived in the new bunker for barely 10 days, from the 8th to the 20th. Look at that. This is where Adolf Hitler lived for the majority of World War II. And can you just imagine him right now coming in and out of these doors? I don't know what the... if you're allowed to go in here or what. But we'll go in here and take a look. Somewhere in here was Hitler's bedroom, his office. I mean, it's fairly destroyed. We are literally walking inside of Adolf Hitler's bunker. This is where he lived every single day. And you can see it's collapsed. But Adolf Hitler would have walked right through here every single day for over 800 days of World War II. Unbelievable, right? Now, so just to kind of finish what I was saying about Adolf Hitler's daily routine here. He would go for a walk with his dog through the whole property. He would greet. He would have breakfast. He would get briefings about the war. Then he would get briefings about things that were domestic issues. Mostly about problems in Germany with bombings of cities. And then he would have lunch. And then he would get another briefing. He'd have dinner. Then he would retire to the tea house and spend his nights there. And then talking, they say till 3 to 4 in the morning. And then he would come right here to his bunker. Can you believe this? And it's still here. It's a tourist attraction here in Poland. And this is wild. This is wild to be here. Look at this. Now I want to say in no way, shape, form, or fashion am I a fan of Adolf Hitler or Nazi Germany. It is, however, very interesting that one man was somehow able to hypnotize, so to speak, an entire country of 80 million people to follow him right into the path of destruction. That's something could anyone ever repeat. Now, so you understand, Hitler was never the leader of the National Socialist movement. He was, he fought in World War I as a corporal. He heard about the them having the Germany having given up while he was in a hospital recuperating from injuries. I think it was from like mustard gas or something, and he couldn't see. And later, he was hired or something by the German government to go to these like little gatherings at restaurants where, you know, people would talk about overthrowing the government or communism or socialism, and Hitler was to spy on them and report back what he heard. But he got so taken by what they would say, and essentially, in a nutshell, they would talk about how, you know, the German people were thrown under the bus, so to speak, because they should have never surrendered. The war never, not one day was ever fought on German soil. That, you know, the Jews was one of the reasons why they lost the war. I mean, he just got caught up in it all. And Hitler was never some mastermind genius. The reason why he ascended to the top of the National Socialist movement was because all these people that were much smarter than him and got the movement moving, they weren't able to speak. And Hitler was. He might be one of the best auteurs, you know, like giving speeches, getting people fired up, and he was so animated. He would literally practice in front of mirrors. And so they really liked the fact that Hitler was able to speak. And then eventually they named him the head of the National Socialist movement. And he was the main spokesman for it. And then he attempted to overthrow the government in Munich, a failed attempt. And he was put on trial for treason, which, you know, he could have been killed, put in prison forever. But he did something no one expected. When he went on trial, he admitted it all and said that, you know, he was doing it for the German people because the German people were, you know, essentially being taken advantage of by the government, by the governments of England and France. And the country of Germany was like at a tipping point. Because of the Treaty of Versailles of World War I, Germany lost a lot of land. That didn't set well with a lot of Germans. The other thing is that they had to pay a lot of war reparations. They weren't allowed to have a big military. And you think about World War II and back, hundreds and thousands of years, Europe was always fighting wars. It was a sense of national pride to fight and die for your country. Now, it's not that way in Europe now, but it was from World War II back. So the Allies looked at avoiding World War II at all costs because they won the war, but at a heavy cost. The way Germany looked at it was we were this close. And think about people like, you know, they want a rematch, okay? The people of Germany were starving. They didn't have jobs. They had deflation. They had inflation. Their money wasn't worth anything. And it was all because of the Treaty of Versailles. The United States became an isolationist country because of the Treaty of Versailles. So the rise of Hitler really is a result of the British and the French. I mean, they really are the ones who essentially allowed for somebody like Hitler to be followed because the German people were so upset by the conditions they were living in, the poverty and everything else, because the government was literally taxing the people and sending it to France and England, war reparations. Now, they got to a brink where they were literally, the German government was almost collapsed. And you know who bailed them out? The United States. Now, the United States kept bailing out Germany because they really did feel like another war could break out. And but the United States wasn't able to bail out Germany anymore because they had something called the Great Depression, and they didn't have any money to help anybody after that. So Hitler came along and basically said to the German people, back me and I will end this suffering. And that's a message that they heard loud and clear. And it literally resulted in the deaths and nobody really even knows, somewhere between 50 and 80 million people. It's insane. But thanks for watching this video, and I hope you liked the tour that I did and the narration of what I do know about the Wolf Lair and World War II and Adolf Hitler. And I am going to try to go to the Berghof. Now, there is a railroad track somewhere, but it is very cold, and I'm not going to try to find it. But there was a railroad track that came up to the Wolf Lair here, and that's where, like I said, like Hitler would come in on his train, or he would fly out on his Condor. But he very rarely left here. This is where Hitler fought World War II, right here. And there's his bunker. And I'm standing right in front of it. And I've seen it so many times on video. But I never thought I would be standing here looking at it. All right. With that being said, thanks for watching the video. I am a fan of history in general, not just World War II. I'm a fan of all history. And it's so interesting to me to be able to see history. And this is big league history right here. When you think about probably the two people that literally are the most well-known in the history of mankind would be Adolf Hitler and Jesus Christ. Those would be the two most. If you go to IMDb, Adolf Hitler and Jesus Christ have the most credits, and it's completely insane. They've made so many documentaries and movies and stories about Adolf Hitler, because when you think about it, it was the first war. Now, World War I, they had cameras and they had documented some of it. But in World War II, it was really the first war that was filmed, and it was filmed in its entirety for the most part. And one of the reasons why it was filmed was like if you're America, you're trying to raise war bonds. So you would take film and you would show, hey, we're winning and this is what we're doing and we need your help. Germany would take film of everything to remind the German people that we need your support. We need you to work in the factories. We need you to join the military. We need you to give up for the war effort, etc. It's propaganda. So everything was filmed for World War II, everything. And so it's unbelievable to be here in the Wolf's Lair, at the Wolf's Lair. A big part of modern history took place right here. Now, like I said, the invasion of Russia that really made it a global war, that was all planned at the Berghof. But Hitler came here because Hitler liked to be close to the front. And so he wanted to be as close as possible. And as I said, he had another one in Ukraine. And he wasn't there as much as he was here. So, yeah, this is wild to be here. Very wild. And since I'm in Europe, I'm going to chase down history. And I'm planning on going to Auschwitz and maybe Schindler's factory, probably. And maybe hit the Berghof. And if I get to Munich, I might shoot some of the areas where the beer hall push happened. But we'll see. But anyway, thanks for watching this video. I know it's not haunted, but it is kind of haunted. This place is has a very dark history. And as I said before, I'm just documenting things that I like now. I'm not just doing haunted house stuff. I'm not a YouTuber per se, because I'm not doing this every day, but I do want to document things that are interesting to me, and I want to talk about them and share them. And I don't care if 5 people see this video. Hopefully you've learned something, and if I was wrong about something, leave a comment below. But I think I covered it pretty good. And with all that being said, thanks for watching, and we'll see what the next video is all about. And maybe it'll be Halloween, or maybe it'll be, since I'm in Europe, more things that interest me, like the history of World War II. I want to also go to Napoleon's crypt, and I'd like to go to the Palace of Versailles and the Louvre, and I want to go see Jim Morrison's grave. There's all kinds of history that I want to see. But this right here, Hitler's bunker, where he lived for over 800 days and ran World War II, this is pretty wild being here. Till then, take care. Now, one other thing that I want to tell you about a visit to the Wolf's Lair is the Polish government has built bathrooms, modern bathrooms, a gift store, and then you know what else? They have a hotel and a restaurant. And that's it right there. Right there. Now, the interesting thing about that building right there is that's the only building that wasn't destroyed. That's a real building from the Wolf's Lair. That building right there. That is real. It was here. Look at the water coming out of the there. It's all frozen. But this is a real building that would have been here at the Wolf's Lair when Hitler was here. I believe it was his guards. This is their barrack. And it was still standing. They didn't blow it up. And it's been turned into a restaurant and hotel. Now, it's not open. You can kind of take a peek in there. It's definitely a restaurant. But yeah, these would have been rooms that Hitler's bodyguards would have lived in. This is, again, the only existing building that is intact. And look at this. Look at that. Holy cow. Oh my goodness. But this building is, in fact, real to the period of when Hitler was here. And it's not a bomb-proof shelter. And I just want to say that not all the buildings here were bomb-proof. The only buildings that were bomb-proof were the ones for the important Nazi leaders, like Goering, Hitler, Bormann, Keitel, and others. But this building was built for Hitler's bodyguards. So anyway, I know that it looked like we ended the video, but I had to come back and film this because I forgot to mention the fact that that actually is the only original building left. And now you can see there's no one here. There's no one booking hotels because it's dead of winter. And there was really only like 2 people working here. There might have been 10 people that came here all day. But in the summer, a lot of people come. And I'm going to tell you that if you come here in the summer, you got to bring mosquito spray because it's heavily infested with mosquitoes. But this is a very popular place in the summer, spring, maybe when it's not so cold. But that is a real building. And I also found out there is a building that you can go into that was restored, and it's to be a replica of the building where Hitler was attempted assassination. And I found out that in off-peak times they keep it closed because they have almost no one working here. I mean, literally, if I wanted to pitch a tent and spend the night here, I could. There's no one here. It's totally abandoned. Totally abandoned. So anyway, there's my video of the Wolf's Lair. One of the most dark places in world history. Think about that. World history. And look at this right here. You can see that bunker collapse, and you can see the stairs. Stairs right there. That's the roof. Has fallen down. Crazy. Well, thanks for watching the video, everybody. And I hope you loved your tour and the history lesson of what I do know about the Wolf's Lair. I think I know a lot, but, you know, If I missed something, leave it in the comments. Look, there's another cat. That's the second cat that I've seen. And I got scared to death by a black cat. And there's another one. So with that being said, everybody, from the Wolf Lair, and what's now Poland, which used to be Germany, used to be called East Prussia. And there goes the kitty cat. And that's all she wrote from one of the darkest places on planet Earth that still exists, the Wolf's Lair.